Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 423. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. We're back with another episode, obviously, to talk Metroid, the Switch OLED, Nintendo 64 games, Yakuza. We got it all on this here mid-October's podcast. Moving right along. Matt, welcome to the show. Welcome to this beautiful morning. How's life treating you in a post-Halloween Kills world?
It's pretty good. It's good to have a new film in the franchise. Whether it's good or bad, it's still good to have a new content to look forward to. Yeah, but same old, nothing new.
Mark, I feel like that is direct shots fired at you, waiting on Camp Crystal Lake to make its return.
Sorry.
I mean,
how do you react to Matt dunking on you there?
No, I'm not offended by that.
I'm offended for you.
No,
so
he's right. But I mean, isn't Jason started off as a ripoff of Michael Myers anyway?
Technically, but I wasn't going to go down that road.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, I'm just happy for slashers to still exist. You know.
I was going to make a point in a later segment about ripoffs.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Yeah, that you're right. They do still exist, thankfully. There's
got Scream next year.
Wait, there's another movie next year?
Yeah, January.
Yep. Scream. Yeah,
Scream.
It's still the same cast from the first one, but new
Courtney
kids.
Cox, Arquette, is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Arquette.
Who's making it? I don't know if you guys heard, but Wes Craven's.
I forget, but it's like I like that they're still involving the the original cast, but at the same time I feel bad for them because whenever movies carry a franchise for so long, you just see how tired they are of everything, and it just keeps getting sadder the more you look at them. Just it's happening again. It's ugh.
Yeah. I mean, especially not just to turn this into let's dig on Courtney Cox, but she really has not had. And maybe I'm completely ignorant to her career, but I feel like it's been Friends and Scream, and then they just keep bringing those things back in different forms, or at least trying to. I feel like
I admire the dedication.
She did that Lifetime show or something, right? For sure. I just that.
Yeah, I don't know what else she's done. I haven't been kept the pulse on that.
Hold on.
I feel like the other ones have done stuff, right? Lisa Kudrow had that show on HBO, and Matt LeBlanc had that other show on Showtime. I don't know what else.
Yeah, and what's his face is still a giraffe. So
David Schwimmer.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's making anti-harassment videos now.
Oh.
I took a training at an old job, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, that is David Schwimmer and Zazie Beetz.
Good for
straight up.
Good for him.
So I will say, there's a little bit of a gap between 2004 and 2009, but she was on that show Cougar Town. That was on ABC.
Right.
I do remember that.
Okay. When I said Lifetime, I guess I meant that. I thought that was a Lifetime show because it felt like a Lifetime show.
That ran from 2009 to 2015. Another gap. She's, I think, guest starred in a couple little appearing for an episode and Shameless and Modern Family and stuff, but yeah.
Courtney Cox was in Shameless?
I think an episode.
Huh.
She played the character of Jen Wagner in 2018.
Unfamiliar.
In the episode Face It, You're Gorgeous.
Oh, well, you should have led with that. Of course, now
Everyone's favorite.
It's the one with Courtney Cox.
If you dropped 100 Courtney Coxes onto an island, who would win?
David Arquette.
Perfect.
That is. Never mind. There's a cockfight joke somewhere in there.
Yes. It is time to talk PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, specifically in context of Game of the Year. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds released in 2018? 17? Now I don't even remember.
17.
17. Look at that. And I think the world is completely different in the wake of it. At least in the landscape of video games. But even the impact I think PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has had on just mass media consumption, like when you really think about it, right? Like PUBG dropped, was a single hit phenomenon. People loved it. Epic pivoted their long in development Fortnite to make Fortnite that we know it to be now. And like that has obviously culturally changed so much, and it's changed. Look at the thing, like obviously spin-offs, or not spin-offs, but clones of that and games that have been iterative or derivative of that. Then you get the way that people buy content in a game, the necessity for free-to-play games to exist, like something like Warzone wouldn't exist. Like Call of Duty's Warzone is now bigger and more, I believe at this point it grosses more than the annual Call of Duty release. I might be wrong about that. I have not actually vetted that number, but I feel like that was what was floated in one of those calls.
You're probably right. I know their year-over-year earnings in Call of Duty is the highest it's ever been, and I'm sure Warzone is a huge part of that number, not just because of a reboot.
Right. No, yeah, I know like the microtransactions alone were like more than Call of Duty sales for one of the most popular games in a specific year and stuff like that. So like that alone has changed. But then think about how many other games have taken that Fortnite mod, like the Fortnite art style, the Fortnite menu system, the Fortnite this, everything is Fortnite now.
The Battle Pass.
And the Battle Pass, like all of that stuff is like so much built on that. And like games that have no right to have a Battle Pass equivalent have a Battle Pass now because you can't not have one. You can't not have a live service game. And all of that started with PUBG, and then to the point, you can keep going with it. Like Epic is suing Apple and trying to change the way that developers get a cut on the App Store. And to set a bigger precedent outside of just Apple, but for every other company and every other digital storefront, like all of those things are happening, for better or for worse. And a lot of things have been dragged out from that. Those court cases brought out all that weird stuff about like how much indie developers were getting paid to have their games sold on Steam versus PlayStation versus Xbox versus like all of that stuff. Like all of that started because PUBG existed, right? Anyway, that has nothing to do with the fact that it's a video game and how good of a video game it is. I talked a bunch. You guys, Matt, tell me about PUBG. I think you were the first of us to dive into it. Is that right?
Probably Ben first, but of us
right.
Here right now, currently, I guess. I got into it just a month prior to the Vault button being put into the game. That's if you're looking at timeline-wise.
Right, because this released in early access with one map, and
this changed the early access thing, and had a lot of people talking about what's early access nowadays too. You can get in that whole rabbit hole if you want to.
Right, because this was the game that kind of broke, not just for us, but for a lot of other outlets. When do we include pre-release or early access games as Game of the Year contenders? And this was like the one for that.
Yeah, so, but it was a neat idea. Other games had started doing it in mod form, but this was the one that kind of took it and ran with it and made it mainstream, and it became a huge hit that year. So much so that it led to all the results that you just said. But like the game itself was very janky. It was not a fun game to actually play, if that makes sense. I think the gameplay loop was a lot of fun. The idea of Battle Royale, 100 people on an island, 100 Courtney Coxes on an island, and then you go ham with Scream Mask, or whatever. But like that, I think the gameplay loop was what made this game kind of one. It was refreshing because it was a new idea at the time, and I think that loop is what put it into our list. Playing the game, at least especially back then, it's tough to say like that part was the good part, compared, especially now, and what we do in this list now with everything else that has come out. Like when you go into battle royales, like the inventory system, I think PUBG's is still the worst. I don't know. I have disclaimer, I haven't touched this game probably since 2018. But like the UI for the menus is not great. I don't like that inventory system. The mechanics of, you can vault, it never felt great. The gunplay, it took that Arma gunplay, which a lot of people aren't used to, and they kind of threw it into this game. They kind of sort of brought down the realism with that, but it was something you had to get used to from your Call of Duties and your Battlefields and things like that. It was very tactical. I don't think that goes well anymore. And now with all the different battle royales, I think the different battle royales are faster paced. You can buy your buddies back, which I still don't think you can do in this game if you play in a squad. Like it just keeps the whole squad engaged no matter what. And this is the only battle royale I think that took a different route. And this is what the legacy they leaned on. They put in different modes and maps instead of evolving the map over time. And I think that kind of split their player base a bit, because some people didn't like maps. They would never queue into them. And then it gets weird after that. So, yeah, I think it was a product of its time. I think it's a revolutionary game. I think it's a game that will go down in history. But as far as playing that game, I don't think it holds up.
It still is very popular.
Oh, yeah, I know it's popular. I'm not saying
not here. But I know, but I'm surprised when I see how much it's being played, specifically in the East. Like it's very big over there, where Fortnite is big over here. Although Apex is big in Japan, there's a weird shift or division of this. Mark, what's your experience with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
Like 5 minutes. Yeah, the controls weren't, I feel like they weren't user friendly.
This is on Xbox, you're saying, right?
Yes. This is, because when I got my Xbox One X, it came with that. And I tried it for a little bit, but like I had a hard time understanding any of it, to try to navigate through the menus, through the inventory, trying to do all that. I just didn't have the patience to really deal with that, but that's just my experience. That doesn't mean the game is necessarily the worst thing ever to exist or whatever like that, but
no, but that Xbox version initially was not great to play. I think it's come a long way, but that was my first exposure to it as well, and
I think it has mouse keyboard support, maybe.
At this point, yeah, it does.
But I'm sure, when anybody talks about PUBG, it's usually PC version, I'm sure, for the most part.
Yeah, but I don't think I think one time we had like a Friday night pizza party and Ben signed into his Steam account and we played around PC-wise. And I was blown away because there were more maps. It looked pretty, like there were rendered textures. Who would have thunk?
Definitely feels like a game that like excels with like, hey, you got your group of friends. This is a thing. You don't have. There's no need to have high standards for something like this. You just go in and have fun. And
that was the best time I ever had with it. Was just playing with my brother.
So like that stuff is always important for any multiplayer game. Like despite whatever the game has or how it looks or whatever, I think like that factor, being able to like have more than one person enjoy it simultaneously, I think says a lot about it. I think that's the most good I can say. And the only real bad thing I'll say is that it now has evolved to have a dumb name.
Oh, PUBG?
Well, it's not just PUBG. It's PUBG : Battlegrounds.
What? Who does
like
that?
It's like ATM machine.
Yeah. Oh, that's stupid. Yeah.
That's my only criticism.
Yeah. Are you excited for the extended PUBG universe, either of you, with the animated movies and single player? Actually, that single player game looked pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't even know. Like, was there lore before this?
I don't think so.
So this is actually going to
I mean,
establish.
I'm sure there was
like,
probably something tossed around in development of like, okay, there's a reason why 100 people are getting dropped on an island and fighting, but I don't think there was anything.
Yeah, or like if that person on the front is like the main character, or
Yeah.
right, like generic dude dress shirt with welding mask or whatever.
Yeah. I'm dying to know more about that guy. I will say that for this game, I think there is that thrill, that first time you ever play. At this point, it's probably hard to imagine not having done this, but because every game does this now. But that feeling of dropping in, running to the closest building or area you can find that seems safe, finding something, going, okay, this is what I got, and like just seeing what happens. And I remember like it happened. The first thing I found, I think it was like a crowbar or something like that. Like it was very like not a gun, not whatever. And just like, oh God. And like just wailing at somebody. I can't remember now if I won or lost, but like that thrill of just like, pure intense, like, oh my God, I have to survive this. You can't really replace that feeling. And then when you go on and you play more of it and you have those moments of victory, especially, as the first time you get you know what I mean? Like you make it to the end as the ring closes in and you're in that final little square off and there's no grenades left. There's, or you're hopefully you're well equipped. Like, I don't know. There's a bit to that not unlike live sports, like it can't be scripted, right? Like there's that one thing with live sports that's still like, hey, there's some tension and excitement here because you don't know what's going to happen. You can guess, you can probably assume, but it's really, it's up to skill and mostly luck, like whether or not this works out in your favor.
But I think you're driving my point home, where it's the gameplay loop that is the best part of this game, and not the actual. And Mark further drove my point, the actual holding the controller and playing this game, or. I mean, on keyboard, there was still a lot of keys and stuff like that. I will say, though, my keyboard mouse, that was when I was transitioning back to that. So it was a little rough then for me. But, yeah, I think it deserved a spot that year. I just don't think it holds up today for us.
No, it's very difficult to put this on a list. Like, I'm looking at it in terms of cultural importance, and I feel like when I think of it in that context, it's way up this list. But when I look at it as like a game I want to play again, or a game that I would recommend, or one of the best of this list, and it is.
I can't even recommend this game in its own genre, personally. Like, I got at least 2 that I would recommend before. Like, I would recommend Warzone or Apex.
Yeah.
Probably Apex more so now.
Dude, does this go below Super Mario Odyssey?
This was where when I said what Super Mario Odyssey, that was going to be 24, this was the game I had under Odyssey.
It's great because I have nothing but respect for it. And again, I think that its cultural importance but in terms of like a game I want to sit down and play, I almost played Super Mario Odyssey this week. I have not thought about PUBG once in forever.
I mean, something's got to go there. Yeah. No matter how we feel about it, something's going to go there.
I mean, that was the point of this list, right? Revisit our prior Game of the Years and do a re-ranking and a master list, right? And it's just we're doing in the year 2021.
Yeah. Well, there it is. Sorry, Brendan. But your game is at the bottom of the list.
Well, he's not even there anymore, right? So he's fine.
Is he not? Really?
I thought he moved on, yeah.
Wow. Cool. Well, hey, if you think we're wrong, podcast@thefreecheese.com and make your case. I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks of that one, because it is still a good game. It's just not where we're at these days. And yeah. I'm curious to play. I remember going back and playing it when it had a winter map added, and I had a lot of fun with that. But yeah. PUBG. So right now, bottom 3 coming up. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds with Super Mario Odyssey and The Last Guardian just above it. Our top 3 on our Game of the Year list: Nier Automata, Tetris Effect, and Doom. Only a few left. A couple more of these, and we'll have a complete list. Matt?
Oh, I was going to say, we flip-flopped Battlegrounds and Odyssey from 2017.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
2017 was Odyssey, then Battlegrounds.
That makes sense. Matt, how are the Halloween movies like Pac-Man?
So, when I saw this question, I had no idea where this came from. And then this morning, I sat down with a cup of coffee and thought about it. There's actually a lot of similarities.
I'm not as dumb as I look.
Ghosts keep coming back to life.
Uh-huh.
You know how many times they killed Michael Myers and it never works? Or they just ignore it. They don't even acknowledge it, they just ignore it.
Right.
There have been a ton of Pac-Man games. I don't know which ones are good or bad, but I'm assuming there's probably some good ones, like Championship Edition, and bad ones. I don't know a bad one, but I'm sure there's some bad ones in there.
Pac-Man 2.
There's
there's your yeah.
I was gonna say there's been a lot of ripoffs of Pac-Man, just like there's been a lot of other slasher films. Although I can't sit on this pedestal. Halloween ripped off Black Christmas, so there's that. So I guess Black Christmas is the whole reason why we have the slasher genre. Thank you to that Christmas film. I don't know. It kind of ends there. I had 2 sips of coffee and I was like, I have some good ideas here, and then I think
Mark, what can you add? How do you feel Halloween is like Pac-Man?
So, doesn't matter which game, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Super whatever, any Pac-Man game. Pac-Man is
Jr.
Yeah, Pac-Man, whoever you're playing as, you are Jamie Lee Curtis. And the ghosts represent her struggles with Michael Myers and trying to overcome them.
Yes. Yeah, because it's not just Michael, right? It's also fear, anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Just trying to live a normal life, going through bad marriages, possibly having a kid, depending on which timeline you care about.
Her alcoholism's in both timelines, though, so don't worry.
Okay, yeah. So whether you have Judy Greer for a daughter or Josh Hartnett for a son, you could go either way. But the pellets represent her chances of overcoming these obstacles. But you realize it's only for a set time before the struggle comes back and tries to take over, and the fear sets in again. And it is just this never-ending cycle. You could go through this 256 times, and you're still... eventually you'll hit a kill screen, but as is life, What is life but just one giant kill screen waiting to happen?
For the kill screen. Are there any ways that these are dissimilar or unalike at all?
Well, one's Pac-Man.
Yeah.
These are ghosts, although the shape could be a ghost depending on your thoughts. I don't know. Jamie Lee Curtis isn't running around trying to eat pellets the entire time while running away from Michael Myers.
Or is she?
No, well, what was it? It was Resurrection. Damn it. It was the first like 15 minutes. She was playing the fool's card by pretending to be crazy and taking all these pills, but she's been stuffing the pills inside of a doll, so she was never taking the pellets, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, right.
That's how she is not like Pac-Man.
That's all of another similarity. She definitely ate her cherries in the end of 2018 when she was on the hunt.
Yeah, good call.
Her scream isn't the same as Pac-Man's. Close. But, you know.
And judging by the I haven't seen the new one yet, but the trailer for the new one, I remember that what's his face? Michael does not stay in the jail that he was placed in at the end of the last one. I mean, obviously, right? Like, you can't.
They threw that in
have
the trailer.
Another
it was just
movie. Yeah.
Deep cut here. What if the ghosts are all the timelines? It's the multiverse of Halloween chasing one Jamie Lee Curtis. Because I believe there's 4. I'm on the fly thinking. It's Laurie 1, which is H2O Resurrection. Laurie 2, which is the new movies. Jamie Lloyd, 4, 5, 6. And then Zombie.
Yeah. On something.
Do
Halloween movies don't have a bouncing pretzel either.
not yet.
Wait to end, dude.
Yeah. Give Danny McBride some credit.
Waiting for that bouncing food.
Is there comedic relief in Pac-Man?
Yeah, Clyde.
Okay, good. Very good. Yeah, that I'm gonna see what else I can come up with in terms of a dumb question like that. That was just a happenstance this week. Just like Metroid Dread was a happenstance, and okay, I don't typically do this. Okay, all right. Whenever I play a big game that I'm very excited for and I complete that game, I sit down and I write a whole thing and I don't share it. Like in the old days, this would have been a full written review that I posted to the site and, whatever. But I do this for myself just to get everything out, stream of consciousness and whatever. And I don't typically read these. I'm just going to read what I wrote if you guys are okay with that.
Sure.
There's just not any sense of like spoilers. There's nothing there in that sense for listeners who have yet to complete it. But it is my full impressions, my lasting impression of the game. And, so I guess if you're worried about how that may influence you, if you find yourself to be one who can be influenced, don't listen to anything I'm saying. I think Metroid Dread had a very slow start, and it was especially apparent after starting a second adventure. Overall, I'm excited that we have another Metroid game, but I think the game fell short of my expectations. After Fusion, Samus is poised to exist wholly different from the hero we would come to love. Samus is combined with Metroid DNA at the end of Fusion, or at the beginning of Fusion, really, and I thought Dread could have kicked off exploring new skills for Samus, but instead, we start the game by stripping her of all the powers and returning to form yet again. As a sequel to Fusion's gameplay, I think Dread is a welcomed addition to the lineup. It's challenging, but completable, and it lets you get lost to find your own way forward. Where Fusion, of course, every step of the way, every time you complete something, it flashed on the map that you need to go back and talk to Adam, and then Adam would say, hey, you have to go to this flashing point, and it was just a game of that. Where now, Adam will occasionally tell you, you should do this or you should do that, but you're not necessarily indicated on a map exactly where to go and exactly what to do. You're still left to your own devices. And I found myself lost a few times. As a sequel to Fusion's story, I think this relies too much on known elements in fear of straying too far into something new. We don't tread a lot of new ground in terms of the story. We don't really take any risks with Samus as a character. There's a couple of things that get peppered in throughout, but I think that it falls short in that regard. Samus's new abilities in this are all mobility based, so they let you slide, speed, soar through each area, and I think it's a significant increase to the traditional pace and movement of a Metroid game, and I find that especially apparent after playing the original Metroid just a week before this game came out. And I think by doing that, by giving her abilities that let her slide, shift, and things like that throughout the stages, I think it places Metroid Dread against its contemporaries and other games that have been derived from Metroid. The Emmy provide a new, albeit brief, sense of anxiety when navigating through a new area. Each one is countered or avoided like the last, and they pose no real threat with such a forgiving reset option after sudden death. And rather than incorporate new abilities to counter the next Emmy, you seek the same Mother Brain-esque mini-boss to obtain a temporary charge that can then defeat the Emmy. It's the same thing. Some other mini bosses later add new requirements to counter, like grappling a shield to pull it off of an enemy. But in turn, they make the Emmy far less compelling as a counter to Samus and the abilities that she's obtained at this point. I think where the story goes in the end will likely carry Samus into the next narrative arc, but the moments, again, are sparse throughout this. I hoped for the option to maybe read through lore after completing the game, if you got a certain percentage, maybe reveal a new ending after you complete hard mode, but nothing awaits you but some artwork. I guess that might be a mild spoiler for folks, but there's just artwork. I think where this generation with the Switch, where Breath of the Wild threw caution to the wind to redefine The Legend of Zelda, Metroid Dread rarely attempts to wander from the predefined path laid by its predecessors. Instead, it practices precision and craft with an intricate understanding of what a Metroid game is. Comparing this to something like Pokemon, I think Metroid makes a lot of sense. It completely sticks to its formula, it applies a new look and feel that welcomes first-timers and excites veterans. And I close on that because everything I said I feel like has a negative tinge to it. I wholly loved playing through the game. I just kept thinking like, okay, how am I gonna, but the Emmy were the same throughout. It was always, let's find my way through the thing, let me escape the Emmy and go get the supercharge so I can take out the Emmy. And then I get a new power, and then I can use that to get to a new area, but I'm not necessarily finding enemies to counter with that. And I feel that other games that have learned from Metroid or the Castlevania games, specifically more Metroid, I think a lot of games pull influence from that, but a lot of indie games and other games that have pulled from this formula do a great job at, here's your new power, now here's a new area and enemy types that require you to really learn that, all the way up until the final boss fight, where usually a good version of this is that by the end of the game, your final boss fight is filled with, different things you have to do that really demonstrate. It's your final test. You know what I mean? Like, that's all that this is. It's a test of your skill. Like, did you learn the things we wanted you to learn? And I think that this one fell short in that way. Again, I loved it. And I think that when you look at it in the right lens, when we look at it as, hey, the latest Pokemon game is the same exact game we've been playing since 96, but it looks a whole lot different. There's a lot more. There's more modern conveniences. There's all of this stuff there, but the core of it is still the same. And we get that here as well. It is still a Metroid game with all of these modern things applied to it. And in that sense, I think it succeeds. But in turn, for me, Samus Returns was the opportunity to do this, right? Like, Samus Returns came out, it said, hey, sorry, we haven't done one of these in a while. Here it is. Y'all like it? Cool. We're going to get weird with the next one. And we didn't get super weird with this one. We stuck to the formula, and it worked. And I thought it was great, and I had a great time with it. But then I found myself just less compelled to replay it again or look for other things or that are definitely not there. And I apologize. That is not typically how I run the show anymore, where I just I know that I talk all the time, and I get that. But I don't like to just kind of like spill out a full review of a game in the middle of a podcast, but this one just kind of sat in that way. So Mark, you haven't touched this one yet. Matt, you've been playing it. I guess, Mark, where are you at with Metroid Dread in terms of interest, intrigue, hopes?
So I've been like vicariously experiencing it through other people's thoughts on it and like impressions, and like I think I feel like you're echoing what everyone else is, what like the consensus is kind of saying, where it's like it is a good game. It's probably not their favorite in the series, but they are glad to have played it. They're glad that it exists. There are a lot of good qualities about it, but the difference here is that I hear a lot of people have struggles with the boss fights that are just like ridiculously hard. And that might be something that a lot of newcomers might be deterred from if they're not used to like a Nintendo game being this difficult. But like I think that's the only difference I've heard so far between yours and that. And
the pro tip there is just to spam missiles, and if you don't have enough, go get more.
But I think, this is probably one of those games where, like, I guess the journey itself is better than the destination, like, just to have that knowledge, that experience to play it. And I've always been, I've never been like on the edge of my seat ready to play this, but that doesn't mean I'm not excited to play it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not itching day one, obviously, to play it, but I think down the line I will still give this game a visit and still, find whatever I like about it and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's important that this came out here. I agree with you wholeheartedly about Samus Returns, how like that should have been like the experimental phase and go weird with this one. But I guess because things have kind of shifted since with like Switch being the new 3DS,
yeah,
they might have to do that again and like still put their feelers out there. Like, hey, how do we feel about, instead of a remake, how do we feel about something new here? Like, do we like this? And it's like, dude, we're just happy Metroid is back. Like,
yeah. I mean, hey, and
better than a number 4 logo.
Right. Yeah. For what it's worth, it's been said this is the last one with the Metroid, right? Like that was stated in the marketing stuff and all of that in interviews leading up to this. So maybe they are planning on going somewhere weird with the next one. But Matt, you've been in this one. You're probably pretty far along, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've hit all the areas at least once, whether it's just passing by or doing something. I've hit every area at this point. So it's funny because the veteran, I'm not so much of a veteran of this series. I mean, I like it, but I really have only played Super Metroid, and I didn't even beat that. I mean, I got very close to the end, I think, but I didn't even beat that. I played a little bit of Samus Returns. I just don't think I like playing on 3DS.
Yeah.
So this, I was kind of skeptical because I knew this was like one of those Metal Gear Solid 5 things where it's kind of in the middle of the timeline and you're just kind of thrown into it. But as soon as the game opens and it starts describing the Metroids and the little goo, I forget what the goo's called.
The
X, yes.
Or the X parasite.
Right.
Yeah.
I knew this was for me. This was for the guy that does not have easy access. Well, I have access to 3DS, but like easy access to a Game Boy Advance to play Fusion. I don't have a Wii. I don't have my Wii U for Virtual Console. This is like a brand new Metroid aimed at me who may not have played the other Metroid games. And I think because of that is why I'm enjoying it a lot more than you. I don't know if maybe the end of this game tails off or something like that, but I haven't just played video games as much this week, but when I do, like I have this crazy itch to go back to Metroid. I like the way Samus moves. I agree. I think the evolution is there, at least coming from what I've played of Samus Returns and Super Metroid. I think the level. I think the level designs is cool, not just in like the aesthetic, but also the way they pace the collectibles. That small gratifying feeling of getting a small power up that is going to help you 10 minutes from now. And they did so well in weaving that. I don't know if I missed the weave or whatever. I'm a bit lost right now, but I think that's where the cool part of either if I need to, I'll use a guide, sure, whatever. But I know there's so many nooks and crannies of these areas that I've gotten powers for and have not gone back for. Like this is the excuse for me to go back and explore. But in exploring, I might get a couple more missile upgrade, like +2 on the missiles, or get some more energy tanks. Like in me exploring, I'm also buffing Samus. So there's a reward for. Even if it's a dead end, there's usually a reward at the dead end that is going to ultimately help me for what's to come. Funny Mark mentions the boss fights, because I have it noted here. They just come out, it's the difficulty spike. Like, the game itself is not terribly hard to navigate through different beasts or whatever. But you get some of these boss rooms, I die 10 times straight in some of these boss rooms just because I don't think I was expecting it. And then, I get frustrated the third time, and then I'm I get myself in Dark Souls mode almost. I think it's just honestly when I think about those boss fights in hindsight, I think it's just a health pool. I think the health pool is just incredibly high for no reason. I think that's the main complaint there. I like the mechanics of them, like the mini ones, the big ones, or whatever. I just think their health pools are incredibly high for every other enemy in this game. And then the main attraction, the EMMI, I don't like it. I think that's like the weakest part of this game almost. I like the aesthetic, and I like that chilling atmosphere of music it gives you, like Dread. Mm-hmm. It nails that. But it's like the least fun area. It's like the grind almost of the game. It's like, crap, I haven't cleared out this EMMI and this planet, and I gotta go through this because I didn't get here. Crap. And I think their forgiving checkpoint system is because I think they do, right? Like, and then I think the other part, and this is where I want to ask a question about this. The AI is random. Like, every time you get into that checkpoint, that EMMI is in a different spot, or it comes from a different avenue. Did we like that? Or do we like that in games like an Alien Isolation? Or do we like more traditional projected, known enemy, that placement, but like pathing and things of that nature?
In this game in particular, I liked it because if I did not get the timing right on the counter, if I had just been caught by an enemy and had to restart that, and then I walk back in, they were in a different spot sometimes, so I could easily be like, all right, I know where they're, I see the red dot on the map, I'm just going to dip through and get out of here and get to the next spot because, you know, I got to go to this spot to get the supercharge. Generally, I think randomization in games is a very tricky thing to do and do right. And I think that it's a game-by-game consideration, but I think generally I do like a bit of randomization when it comes to something like that, because I don't know, maybe I'm still thinking of it in the context of this. Like, if a Dark Souls thing were random every time, that would be frustrating, because, I mean, it is random in a way, but it's not random in terms of total placement. It's just like, which one of these, 5 main attacks is this boss going to do at this point? But again, repetition and memorization help you in that regard. That's tough. Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, I think it depends on, I guess, the game, right? Like, let's take a fighting game, for example. Whenever I'd play Street Fighter 2 on a Super Nintendo, the more you up the difficulty, like, the AI's pattern kind of starts to change. It's not, I don't know if I'd call it random, because you kind of know what to expect. Like, when you fight super hard Ryu, they only spam Hadouken. And it's so weird, because, like, easy Ryu doesn't really do that. They don't even have the time to do it. It's just, but it's super hard. That is it. That's all they're doing. If you get too close, sure, Ryuken. That's just all they do. And it's weird how set that is, or like, or I guess with like racing games, right? Like, the AI can be a little, probably mostly random. I feel like for the most part, and it kind of works in their favor. It's not too bad or whatever, but if I'm go to my usual rotation with games, like, I found the balance. Because I can appreciate each for what they do, but Hotline Miami, again, the AI in that game, it's not perfect, but it's weird because, like, the enemies are always set in these spots, but you never know how they're going to react to you. And a lot of that has to do with either the programming of the game or just how it collides with other objects. If they get like stuck in like a weird like loop bug, or where they're not really running to you, or maybe they are, but not in the same direct path that you expected them to, or you try to shoot to like draw attention, but maybe they didn't hear it the first time, so you got to do it again. They hear it the second time. I don't know. It's interesting that, like, I can expect what enemies that are coming, but I still don't know how they're going to react to me, and based on what I have. But that's a very interesting case. But I think if I was leaning to one side or the other, I think in the long run I would prefer set. I think random is fine at first, but over time I would get tired of it, especially if I just want to get through something, and if I know what's expected, I know how to handle it quicker. But I
think for super longevity, random, I like random better because, like, I don't know. playing through Rondo of Blood earlier this year, you get a point. It's not unlike Dark Souls where it's like, okay, they're going to be here. Okay, let me just do this thing. I have to learn this pattern. I have to do this. And that repetition lets you overcome the challenge. And then you have a good sense of whatever. But now going back through Rondo again, I don't want to say it's easy, but you know what I mean? There's not a ton of new challenge to it where randomization can still add that. I think if you return to something years later. But
I wonder how much random AI is a pain for speedrunners.
Watch the Alien Isolation speedrun.
Is that why you brought that up? Or
yeah, that's part of it, right? But they mention about like it's random. There's things they can do to trick, I think, the randomness, but it's in the back of their minds, and they have to have like fail-safe strategies if the alien were to appear.
How did you feel about the Emmy randomization in this one?
I mean, I use it as good RNG, right? It was, all right, I need to get there, but it's coming from there, and there's not a good spot to hide, so crap. And then I would die, and then it would come from the other direction. All right, this is the run. This is the time to go up. And I appreciated it in this game because I thought at first like it was cool, but as some of them are hard, like there's a later one that sees through walls and sends an electric like shock thing at you. Like,
yeah, but even that, dude, you get to a point where it's like, okay, I can't mess around here. I just need to speed run and get out of here. And that for me was the only like thing I had to do in up against that one. And then you get to a point where you find the thing, and you just have to find the exact right spot to position yourself to get your charge thing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All that stuff.
But like the other ones, like, yeah, you ran away from, but like that one in particular, it's like, man, like if you make the small misstep, you're screwed. Like you're gonna die, and you're gonna have to go back to the checkpoint or whatever. And like I said, it's usually you're only a room or two away, but still, like they became very annoying, more so than a fun piece of the puzzle of gameplay.
Well, and yeah, like coming from Fusion had the SAX, where the X took control of Samus's old suit and hunted you through the entire game, not unlike the MER in the specific area. So when they announced the Emmy, I was like, okay, it's like a game filled with the SAX, just a bunch of them. But they're kind of not, because the SAX could not be defeated until the end, right? These you're defeating one at a time, so they're inherently less of a threat because you know that Samus can overcome them if you get something. And they become less of a threat, the fact that each one of them is defeated the exact same way. Avoid, find the thing, do the thing. That's it. If, one of them gave you the ability to... Because one of them gives you, ice missiles or the ice beam? I forget now at this point. But...
Yeah.
If you go into the next area and then that one is doing something and you need to freeze it before you can... that's the part I was kind of looking for and expecting out of the Emmy, where... It wasn't that at all. It was just go find. And again, we also, I get the homage to the Mother Brain when you do get that, Omega charge or whatever it was called, overcharge. But there's no acknowledgement of it. There's no story cutscene that says oh yeah, that room where that thing is. And maybe I don't need things. Maybe I'm asking for things to be over explained, and maybe that I'm wrong for that. But there is such a deep connective lore in between Metroid and y'all know Samus is a bird, right? There's a lot of weird stuff in Metroid that they don't touch on. They just kind of dance around, that I feel like it could be, maybe there's such harsh pushback against Other M that they wanted to stay far, far away from exploring any sort of story in too much detail. But I feel like there were things about this that I wanted to see them connect, and you know what I mean? They just didn't. Why are we on this? They get there in places, but they don't get there with everything in this.
That's a little weird versus their marketing for this. They over marketed the crap out of this game for their YouTube channel, and they were pushing the lore so hard. It was catch up on all this lore. Why, if you're new to this, here's all this you can catch up on to know the story of Samus, because when it comes to Dread, it's implying that you're going to get so much more that's new. And it just kind of doesn't deliver that after pushing all that. What was the point?
It does, but it's honestly
But it's for not as long as you expected, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, a paragraph sums it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff at the beginning where you're like curious and, hey, what is the answer? I don't really know what's going to happen. And then when you do get the payoff at the end, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? But like, even that, like, all it does is answer the questions they pose at the beginning of the game rather than introduce new ones. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That I know that I've been like a little bit critical of it, but I loved it, and I like Matt. Every time I sat down with my Switch, I was compelled to jump back into it. Even now that I'm kind of on the other side of it and I'm moving on to some other things, I still sit down and I open Metroid. Like I launch the game and then I'm like, right, I'm here. I don't have to. Okay, you know what I mean? Like I'm not compelled to like play, but I know I will go back to this one. I hope that I appreciate it more in time than I even do now, because I do think it's, again, like a great Metroid game. It's just, and it has nothing to do even with the fact that it has the Dread name that we've been waiting for. Like, it's not that. It's just as a direct sequel to Fusion, you know, I was wondering where we would go in terms of really like abilities and scale and things like that. So I don't know. I think that, like I mentioned in my little like half review, as a sequel to the gameplay of Fusion, I think it's exactly where we needed to go. As a sequel to the story, I feel like Samus's characterization is great. I think that like the abilities she gets, like we're right at the beginning, it's the same thing again. It's like, hey, here's a reason that we're forcing in to make sure that Samus has nothing again. Where like, man, how many times are we going to do that? Like the next one, we got to start with missiles. You know what I mean? Like, or we got to start with a bunch of stuff. There needs to be a baseline, and let's build on top of that. Let's say that whatever. Yeah, that's down the line. So I don't know what with you guys, when you look at the two lasting things I have from this game is, it's really like, what is a sequel to you, or what should a sequel be to you? You know, I think when we were younger and there weren't as many franchises as there are now, and it was a sequel actually like meant something really big and important. Sequels also typically happened with an evolution of either the understanding of the technology or the technology itself. So any sequel that we got was incorporating things that the developers had learned to implement better or make better use of in the hardware, or it was brand new hardware, so the sequel was just inherently more interesting or had more things available. And looking at something like Metroid specifically, Metroid to Metroid 3, jumping from NES to Super NES, obviously it looks better. Samus has more mobility. She can aim in more directions now. There's the grappling beam. There's more enemies. Like it's more, but it's also refined. They added the map system, right? Like they did things to make the game easier to play, bigger, but you know, still holds on to the core. And I think Metroid Dread does that also. I think it, like I said, it brings it into a modern era. It redefines what a Metroid game is. And I think, like Matt points out, right, there's a lot of people who've never touched a Metroid game. Even if they have, for how long or how deep have they gone with it? And Mark, like the YouTube stuff makes all the stuff, because I assume that all the YouTube stuff was also pushed on every other social media platform as well. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people have a Switch that have never didn't know what a Samus was. They looked through those icons to try and find, a Fortnite guy to make their avatar, and saw some dude in a helmet and said, that one looks cool. That guy looks cool. Is that a Metroid? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So in that regard, like setting a good baseline, I think is important here for a sequel. But when you guys think of what a sequel is, especially today, what should a sequel be anymore?
I mean, for me, it's just a follow-up on predecessor, of course, that, you know, if there's lore stuff based upon it, expand on the lore, at least some, and then expand upon the gameplay loop. Like, I think sometimes developers go way crazy with a sequel because they want to make it this big, sexy new thing. But, like, I think just expanding upon it. Like, if you give it the same game, that's kind of like But if you do at least something to shake it up the gameplay,
has there been a good or a bad example of that for you in the last couple years?
I think Doom Eternal is like the perfect sequel for me. I think like it took the formula, it altered it a little bit, but it shook up the gameplay loop in a way that I really liked, and it built upon the lore. It did some of that stuff, but I think like when I think like what a sequel can do, and like with a slight change, I think Doom Eternal, at least the last couple of years, is a good example of that for me.
Mark, is there a bad example you can think of?
For a sequel? Yeah, I guess it's something that just could have been paid DLC.
Mario Party Superstars.
Yeah.
Well, what is a sequel to you, or what should a sequel be? Sorry, I didn't let you answer that.
I think a lot of it does depend on what the first game has already established. If it's the foundation for a story, then obviously you want to add more to that, like Matt was saying. But if it's a game where it's kind of trying to find its footing, maybe with gameplay, hasn't quite got it to where they want it to be, then the sequel should refine that. The sequel should enhance the gameplay, polish it up. Whatever blemishes they had before, work on that. If the first game was solid, doesn't have to worry about that, then they need to explore a little bit, have fun with like the what ifs, like, what if we did this with this? What if we did this with that? And just see where that goes with it. Just go into uncharted territory. Doesn't have to go all out there, but I think there needs to be some hint of that. But regardless, it has to, whatever the essence of that game that is established that everyone likes, that essence has to remain, no matter where you go with it.
Yeah, I think like Nintendo does generally a great job at sequelizing things, right? They introduce new ideas, like the Earthbound to Mother 3. It's still the same core, completely different cast, completely different whatever. There's new gameplay elements that are added into it, but the same core of it is there. I think that we see often with Mario in particular, you see a lot of, there's always a new hook, but it still needs to have that core bit of what makes a Mario game added in there. Yeah, I think they're great at making sequels. I think that for me in recent years, the downfall has been the big story-based games, because the focus gets put more on where are we taking the story next, where are we taking the characters next, rather than what are we doing with the gameplay. And I know this sounds completely contradictory as somebody who just kind of asked for more story in Metroid Dread and didn't I like the gameplay in this, but I think that these big budget AAA games, a lot of the Sony first party stuff, like that stuff gets more like, the mechanics are there because they seem happenstance, but that's not what anybody talks about. Nobody talks about The Last of Us 2 as having, better stealth or more options for taking down enemies. Like, they talk about what happened with the story. They talk about what happened with the characters and all of that. And I think that's the part where, sequels in that regard in a game are tough, because I think you're right. Like, it needs to be, what is the essence of this thing? And I guess maybe that's my problem, is that the essence of a lot of those big games is the story and not the gameplay. But it's not to say the gameplay.
But those are also games that are like maybe not trying, but they just come off as more of like cinematic pieces versus.
Right. That is the hook initially. The gameplay is, it's there because it's a video game.
Yeah.
That I think that goes into another territory that I don't want to tread too far into.
I was gonna,
that's
when you started going down that path before you even said Sony first party. My first thought was Uncharted, like Uncharted 1 through 3.
For sure.
Uncharted 1 through 3 are the same game, and then you get a grappling hook in 4.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the second one was worse because it didn't incorporate the 6-axis to balance on anything as you walk. So keep that in mind.
That's all right. We were better off.
I guess.
Oh, I was gonna say like bad examples of sequels are what Mark said, but to put a game to it, any of the fucking NHL or sorry, not EA Sports franchises.
Sure.
Like, just give me a $40 roster update and then give me a new package in 3 years.
Tangent, and we're gonna go to a break. But NHL Part 1, I heard this year's game might be better.
Really? Because I've heard other.
And two, I saw someone pose a very interesting question, and I guess I'm going to ask you this, Matt, as we go into break. Mark, please. But I know this is Matt's jam, but I want to hear from you too, Mark. But what sports game is going to be the first one to add NFTs?
Madden, or FIFA. It might be FIFA. They're gonna change the name anyway of FIFA because FIFA's charging them too much money to use the name. Then EA Sports is greedy, so they just might call it NFT 2025.
Why would a
Why
sports
not?
game even?
Why not? Come on, Mark. Why not?
Because then you're kind of getting you're doing the trading card thing, but in a game, right?
So, but by NFTs, do we mean like buying art NFTs? Like,
yeah.
Well, but the idea that there's something embedded in the digital product that makes it wholly yours to own. You know what I mean?
Like the game itself, or within the game. Like, I now own
Within
a part
the
of this
game,
virtual
within the game.
character.
Like, in my head, the NFT in a FIFA would be you open the card pack, you get give me a soccer player,
Cristiano
Jason
Ronaldo,
Statham, and then your Jason Statham card is one of 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you own one of 100, and you can't do anything with it because it's trapped in the game. But they'll ride the buzzword of NFT and whatever else. So,
well, then whenever they decide to bring back, unless it's still been going, and I am not sure, whenever they bring back the backyard sports games,
nice
backyard football, so
that is ripe for that. And I think you're more right than Matt, and that's not a dig on you, Matt, but I think that when they do something like that in a proper EA game, they need to do it with like care and precision and research and analytics and blah blah blah. But the backyard franchise is probably being owned by, like, you know what I mean? It's changed hands enough times at this point where it's just some guy who wears like a nice suit, not well, but like wears it and just always smells like scotch. And he's like just combining. What do we have? We got that backyard. Yeah, let's do what, you know what I mean? That seems like a coke fueled. Yeah.
You get some artists to do like some backyard baseball cards. For that game, and like,
so
you can collect all these.
Exclusive Pablo.
Oh God, you made it happen. We are taking a break now before this gets too bad. By the way, I was looking up something the other night. I don't remember what. I was trying to find out something about some character, and part of its like Wikipedia page said that it had 2 pop figures released in 2018. Why is that relevant to the character?
Congratulations.
Why at all do I need to know when and how many pop figures they had? We're taking a break. We'll be right back with more Metroid Dread, some Back for Blood, and a little bit more. We'll be right back. Metroid Dread is the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the mainline Metroid games. Mark, what is the best 5th game in a series?
Oh man, you said mainline. That was going to be my question. Like, are we
Ooh.
talking
Well,
just
you know what?
mainline?
Just, what's the best? I was a little particular when I was picking out my list here, but what's your best 5th game?
Okay, so
I'm open to interpretation and reasoning here.
I can't think of personal 5th games to Well, kind of. So the answers I'm going to give are just based on these are the 5th games in the series, and a lot of people agree that these are probably the best. Is that okay?
Yes, hit me.
Okay. So when I'm counting one game, if it's released on multiple systems, it's still that one game.
Okay.
Okay. So if I'm reading this correctly, Sonic 3 is the 5th game.
Interesting. Because what I had down was Sonic and Knuckles.
Which, you know what? Even if I was wrong with my math, I'll take that, you know?
Because this is Sonic, Sonic 2,
yes,
Sonic CD,
yes,
Sonic 3,
before
Sonic
that,
and Knuckles.
Right. Before that, if you want to count Master System or Game Gear, Sonic Chaos came out right before Sonic 3.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, fair.
But that's also not
mainline in that.
Right. So mainline Sonic
like,
and Knuckles, which I agree
on the
with.
Super Mario side of things, like, would you count Super Mario Land in the main?
I think so, because
I guess, right? Because if you think about it, if this question originates from Metroid, you had NES, Game Boy, SNES, Game Boy Advance, and now Switch.
Yeah, plus Mario Land introduced a lot of things with characters that are still around today. You got Wario and Daisy.
You're just saying that because you're a big
that.
fan of Daisy.
And Wario.
All right, fair.
Well, I mean, that was Land 2, but got a Land 2 because of Land 1.
True.
But Zelda, Ocarina of Time is the 5th game.
With Link's Awakening? Is that what we're...
If you're including Link's Awakening. Which I think deserves a spot.
I think so too. Yeah, no, I'm there.
So those are my two answers. I'm gonna say Sonic and Knuckles now, based on your thing, but or you know what? See, if we're not including Link's Awakening, then Majora's Mask is the 5th game, and damn it.
No. I think Link's Awakening makes sense. I don't think Sonic Chaos does make sense.
Right.
Because it's a spin-off. I look at that as a spin-off, not a main thing. So okay, so far we've got Sonic and Knuckles. Mm-hmm. We've got
Ocarina of Time isn't my favorite 5th, but I know it's a lot of people's favorite 5th.
Fair.
But Sonic and Knuckles would be my that's if that's your answer too. Like I'm in agreement with you. Like that's the.
It wasn't my gut, but that I have a short list. Matt, what do you got? Hit me with your best 5th game.
I had the most trouble thinking about this. I guess I should have did more research. Because I'm looking. All right, so I guess I could cheat and just say Metal Gear Solid 5 out of the Solid series. But technically, if we're going down the rabbit hole of Metal Gear games, technically that falls to 3. Snake Eater, which actually is acclaimed in the series as probably the best one, which is the one I haven't finished.
Yet.
Right.
Let me ask this. Are the Metal Gear Solid games direct sequels to Metal Gear? Or prequels or whatever, however they're gonna do it, but like...
Yeah, they tie together. Like, you don't need them, but they're tied together, yes.
I would say Metal Gear 3 works then. Right. In our same world where... So what would it be for Mario? So here's the weird one for Mario. You got Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels, Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and then you get Super Mario Land before you get World. I guess Land would be the... Yeah.
I mean, Mario's a big deal, you know? I don't know if, like... Spin-offs now feel more like when he's doing, like, sports.
Right.
But if he's platforming...
If he's a man
if he's jumping, that's a Mario. I think Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is the best 5th.
That is the 5th.
It's a great 5th game.
Wait, is 3DS and Wii U the same number?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were released the same day. Never mind. Ignore me. Never mind.
They weren't. They were 2 months apart, but they were... It was clever how they did this. I'm not sure if you picked this up. Super Smash Bros. 4 3DS and 4 Wii U. Yeah.
No, I see. I interpreted it as hey, thanks to 3DS, we don't have ice climbers.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Yeah,
That's what 4 means in Japanese.
gotcha. Yeah. See, 4 is the death number, so they don't
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah, they killed the yes. I think Castlevania Rondo of Blood. Now I got a little weird with this one, but I think that makes sense because you get 1, 2, 3, 4 on the Super Nintendo, and then 5 would be Rondo. There is Castlevania Chronicles for the Sharp 68,000, but
Everyone played that.
Chronicles is more of a remake of 1 or reinterpretation, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you want to be real stupid, 4 is also the same thing, but I still think 4 is kind of its own thing. It has a 4 in the title. I think Rondo makes sense as a number 5. So I think Rondo's on that list. I think Monster Hunter World is on that list.
Oh shit.
That was the one that, they're all those spin-offs and all those everythings, but Monster Hunter World is the 5th main in the series, right? Because remember, they do the weird stuff where they do, like, Generations Plus, and all the weird, like, whatevers, but they're typically... It's kind of like doing... I can't think of another franchise that does it similar to Monster Hunter, but it's the thing. Like, they have the main one, like 1, 2, try, 4... World was 5, so...
Okay. All right, I win. If we are twisting rules in weird ways, if you look back at the Batman franchise, if you trace back for, like, mainline NES entries, One Batman Forever is the 5th game on the SNES.
There was 4 NES Batman games?
So you had...
Dude.
where is it? Batman.
Yep.
NA 1990. And then it was
Return of the Joker.
Return of the Joker. Yep. Next one would be Batman Returns.
Yep.
And then The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Those are Super Nintendo though, and Genesis. Right?
Yeah, but I'm following like the main lineage of like.
No, sorry, I was under the impression these were all just NES games.
Oh,
I was
sorry.
like, what?
And then
yeah.
Yes, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then yours truly, Batman Forever.
Batman 5 ever, you know what I'm saying?
That's a tough stretch.
I don't know. That's a pretty good one.
Adventures of Batman and Robin leaves the movie universe, right?
So does Return of the Joker.
No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, Return of the Joker is a sequel to the 1989 movie.
It's a sequel?
Dude. Sunsoft made a sequel to the Tim Burton 1989 Batman movie and called it Return of the Joker. It is literally, the story follows the events of that movie and predates what happens in Batman Returns.
That's some Triforce Heroes craziness.
It's pretty sick. It's also really fun to play. What you should avoid playing is the TurboGrafx-16 version of that Sunsoft Batman game. Don't know why they made that. It's a top-down... Anyway. So what's the best of all of these 5th
Batman
games?
Forever.
Batman Forever is the winner.
Yeah, of course.
Clearly. It's the one.
I guess...
I've also got Pokemon Black as, I guess, Black and White.
Shout out to Final Fantasy V.
I thought about that, but I'd never played that one all the way through, so I couldn't...
I liked it. I think,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it did a good job with the... I guess, pun intentional, but it did a good job with the job system. It was basically Final Fantasy 3, but the story felt very cool to play. I don't know. I like those characters. There was good chemistry.
What would technically be NA5 though? So we didn't get like the first 3, right? I mix up the story, but like we didn't initially. So what would be R5?
R5 would be. We got what 1, 4, 6, 7. So 8 would have been R5, unless you count Mystic Quest as a Final Fantasy game. Then that gets weirder. Final Fantasy Legend also came out, the Game Boy games. But those are also Saga games, so that's a different.
One of those is a Mana game, right?
The Final Fantasy Legend, or right? I said Saga. Are they Mana or Saga? No, I don't remember now.
Both, maybe. One of them's a mana. I know that because I have the mana collection. And it was like Final Fantasy Adventure, I think is... I don't know.
That's what it is, yes. Final Fantasy Adventure are the mana games. Legend are the saga games. That's what it is. Boy, oh boy. Quick side note, Matt, that Switch OLED model came with Metroid Dread. With your copy of Metroid Dread, you picked up a Switch. You got a Switch for free. What was... how are you liking it so far?
So far, I really haven't played it that much in handheld mode. Like I said, I just haven't played many video games this week, and when I have, I was playing Metroid on the big screen. But the little bit I did play, it looks nice. I like it's still 720p, so like the resolution didn't bump, but I think I watched the Mr. Linneman Digital Foundry video on the OLED, and then followed that up with Metroid, their review of Metroid. And I think he's right. I think like the OLED worked really well in Dread with this case because of so many blacks on the screen because of the level design. But yeah, like it definitely looks sharper. That the seeing like the glare off the screen right as you open the box was like a woof. And then the screen size, like it's not like it's bigger, right? It's like by like when you look at the measurements, it's not much, but like it's a nice change. That's a little bit bigger. I do not have an exclusive theme.
Yeah.
So it's still black or white after all these years.
Does the black look better on an OLED screen?
Sure.
All right.
I didn't pay much attention because of the disappointment of only two themes still.
We talked a little bit about Metroid Dread's marketing. We talked over the last couple of weeks, or I guess a few weeks ago now, we talked about some marketing. I have a quick little conversational talking point before we get into some Back for Blood and some other spooky game talk. But was Yakuza Like a Dragon actually better than the other games, or did Sega just finally market it properly in the West?
That hypothetical? Is that you asking the crowd?
It's however you interpret it, man. Like I just started thinking about it, and like I am every time I play that game, I'm like so excited to be playing that game. It is a refinement of the series, I think, right? Like it's definitely taken what it's learned from its predecessors, it's applied it to make the game more approachable, more whatever from a gameplay perspective. The change to make it more RPG focused instead of like, the action combat stuff that the previous games, but the other games were all great, and all of the stuff that made this game great was in the old ones for the most part, right? Like the weird side missions, the characters you meet and interact with, the world you walk around in, the things you do, like so much of it has been there since the first Yakuza game, let alone the one that came out just before it, and the spin-offs in the Lost Judgment series, or the Judge. This one's called Lost Judgment. The first one was just called Judgment, right? But like, it's all there. So yeah, I'm conflicted. Like, is it actually a better game than the others, or did Sega just market it properly? Because people love that game, and they act like it's the greatest thing that's ever been made. And I'm not saying it's not, but where were y'all?
Yeah, I think it's just a preference of presentation. Because I think both probably have. I mean, I never played the Like a Dragon, but from what I've heard, especially from you two, it's a very good world that you want to be in, that you're excited to take part in, and I think from what I played of Zero, I think that still holds true. In both cases, I think it's just a matter of, do you prefer to just go and mash buttons, or do you want to strategize and do some turn-based combat? But with that, they're able to learn over time and able to embrace that like very tongue-in-cheekness that they have and apply that to Like a Dragon. I don't think they've done it so much. Like, I mean, I don't think the other Yakuza games take advantage of, hey, we're a like pseudo beat 'em up game. We're going to be tongue-in-cheek about that gameplay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that
the self-awareness of that, I don't think is there. But they do have a
that,
chicken.
and Ichiban's like characterization is much more goofy than Kiryu. Yeah. So I think that they can be a little more like, look at us, we're a video game where with Kiryu they still, and that's not to say this game doesn't have any serious elements to it, because it certainly does, like Ichi's whole backstory and everything. But yeah, there's
I think both have their wackiness still intact. I just think it's a little more upfront with Like a Dragon. It seems with the other games, you have to invest a little bit before you kind of start to reach that. I just think it's a healthy evolution. If anything. So I guess to answer your question, both.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing more of an acceptance of things from the East in the West these days as well, in all media. So maybe there's a bit of that where it's opened up. I think also this was a great product of 2020's fall release schedule, because it was sparse. And when you got a new console, you had very few things to play. And this was one of the big ones on Xbox. So I think that helped it immensely.
That was going to be my...
Yeah, Matt, what do you think?
That was going to be my point. I think... One, a little bit of marketing and stuff, but I think the getting out there and saying like there's a new combat system, new character also helped. It was like a good like refresh point. I guess if you weren't clever, you didn't think this was like the 7th in the franchise or whatever. But yeah, no, I think timing of a new console. I mean, like the 3 games I bought on Xbox, I probably would never bought them otherwise. But like at launch, I bought Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, and Yakuza.
Which of those have you finished?
Yakuza.
Which of those did you like?
Yakuza. I didn't mind Assassin's Creed. It's just so long.
Yeah.
I don't feel like playing that game for 80 hours.
So do you think that if we can just cancel all video games, Sega can put out another game and have it be a hit?
I mean, potentially. Look, I'm late. Maybe this leads to your next question, but I was a little late to the party. But man, whatever they want to make their Motorsport Manager 2, I'm ready.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that this series has been around for a while. The games are and have always been relatively along the same, path, but not unlike Metroid, right? Like Metroid, this one seems to have blown up. The series sales are at a franchise peak. It's in more people's hands. I'm sure that more people are going to want to go back and play the old games now, just like they did with Yakuza Like a Dragon, and go back to the other Yakuza games. But has there been another game or franchise that you've enjoyed, but it didn't catch on until a different release? Maybe you've been shouting everyone should play Metal Gear and nobody touched it until 5. You know what I mean? Or something like that. Like, is there something like that where it's like, no, all of these games are good and they've always been good. You guys have been sleeping on this. But then out of nowhere, one of them just kind of blows up overnight.
Question.
I have an answer if you want to think, Mark.
Yeah, go for it.
I think this happened to a lot of people, but I think it was just because of the console and not having a PC. But Battlefield, Call of Duty, they're in the same genre, so I'm just going to say them both. Didn't get into Call of Duty until Modern Warfare, and I didn't even own a console. I just played a lot of it over someone's house. And then I owned my first Call of Duty with Modern Warfare 2, which is technically entry 6?
14. Yeah.
Not including all the side ones or whatever that spun off on PS2 as just single player campaigns or whatever. But yeah, I got into those late relative to the fact, but like everyone talks about how awesome 1 and 2 were. I think there were some problems with 3, but then of course 4, and then like I said, I played a lot of that one, but didn't really own a game. Played all the hours I end up playing some of these games with until Modern Warfare 2. And the same thing with Battlefield. I just never had a machine, but Battlefield 1941, right? I think is the year. But like, same thing. Like all those games were highly praised multiplayer games. Just didn't have equipment to get into it until pretty much Battlefield 3 when it made its PS3 big debut with the sexy Frostbite engine. Well, I guess I missed out on Bad Company because they were on PS3 and Xbox and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was Battlefield 3 was the main one that I finally jumped in and really liked that franchise.
Yeah, mine are kind of weird answers because Yeah, because a lot of the games that I play, that might fall under to be an answer. I don't think they're really like necessarily part of like a franchise, but aside from that, I guess Dynasty Warriors.
Oh,
I know but like I jumped in, I think, on like the second one or the third one, and like as far as I knew, only me and like two other people really enjoyed those games and just played those in a weekend, and it was cool. And then here we are now, where like almost every other franchise has a Warriors like Muso game. So like, and that could be someone's first, but so it's not directly Dynasty Warriors, but I think it's because of that, someone, Hyrule Warriors is somebody's favorite game, or
sure.
Or like what was the other Muso games, like anime tie-in ones, like
yeah, they did a Berserk one, they've done a Fire Emblem one, there's been some
Fist of the North
Gundam
Star
ones.
Yeah, Gundam.
Yeah,
there's just so much of it now that like people are sick of it, but there's still people that eat that stuff up, but at the time that one felt very, very niche in the early PS2 days.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Phantasy Star 2 is a good answer. Because like I was playing it when it wasn't available here.
Right.
And now it's available, and I guess it has better player base now. It
is, yeah, more people are excited about it and into it, but
I mean, in our circles, it's, it's not really talked about, and even like whoever we follow online or whatever, you don't really hear much about it, but it was a big deal when it finally came over. I know that, but I don't know about that one. That one's a little iffy, but you can ask this again when Goemon comes back.
Oh God, I hope you're right. I think, like, broadly speaking, this is going to be the most hipster thing I've said this episode, but any kind of, like, indie game related thing, like,
yeah,
certain of those where, like, we would get into them and it'd be like, yeah, cool, but everyone's like, no, that I don't play that crap. Why are you playing what? But then, like, there was a shift where indie games really took over, and it was like, Hades won everybody's game of the year last year, and like that kind of stuff I think is interesting, where like something like that took over. But we're like, yeah, dude, where were y'all when, I can't think of a good example now, but
I think it's like when it's at first like an exclusive PC game, and like a year later it comes to consoles, and that's like everybody's first time hearing about it or seeing it because it's in like a direct or a presentation of some kind. When for us it was probably like an early access game, or you got it through itch or something,
right.
And then they see the final product where like we would see like the early stuff, and that's probably like it's probably gonna be more like that today than anything else.
But even like to Matt's point, like something as big as Call of Duty, wasn't always that, right? It was just like another thing in the repertoire, where now it is just. I mean, Activision could, not that it would, but it could dissolve into separate companies for each of its major franchises, and Call of Duty would easily be the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, a lot of things I liked are dormant.
Yeah, we went the opposite way.
Yeah.
Well, Left 4 Dead was dormant, but now it is back for blood in a way.
He did it. I was hoping he would do it.
Yeah.
So with Back for Blood out fully now, you played the beta a little while ago, and full release is out. You're in spooky mode. How's Back for Blood going now that it's out in the wild?
Pretty good. They've definitely taken the liberty to do some changes, and it's all for the better so far. I've only gone through Act 1. I haven't seen. There's 4 acts, by the way, and for anyone who's played Left 4 Dead, you kind of have to drop that logic. It isn't, hey, let's pick this quote movie theme and play through 5 maps and that's it. It's not really that. It's like there is a overall narrative that is going on. There are cutscenes. Everything ties together. It's credits don't roll after Act 1. So that's cool. It's cool to see how everything is forming, where it's going. They definitely the beta had, from what I'm seeing, the beta was just Act 1, but it was like a shortened, condensed version. They expanded this by they added a pretty good chunk in the beginning. I don't know how to describe it, because it's a series of dots for each act, and only some dots are connected. So, there's 4 dots in Act 1. The very first 4 dots are all connected. Then there's a space, and then there's 2 dots that are connected. And then there's a space, and then there's 3 dots that are connected. Because whatever that part of the story or mission is, it's that's its own little section, I guess. The first 4 are going to be typical, go from point A to point B, kill brain dogs along the way, and, that's the core game. The little 2-dot connector is a gathering items mission or something. You have to go into this town, find supplies, and then and then save people along the way. You're rescuing people inside buildings and stuff, free them, then you get to move on. And then the 3-dot connector that's after that one is deliver these supplies all the way to this one diner, and then you have to fight off a horde for 5 minutes. And then so that's its own little thing. That's how.
Are you happy with that kind of change in this, or
it sounds? I'm probably not doing it justice the way I'm describing it. But I do like this a little bit.
Yeah.
Part of me does kind of miss the more arcadey approach, where you just jump into one quote campaign and just kind of go through that and call it a day. But the cool thing with this, at least, is as you unlock the levels as you go on, you're able to start from any of those points moving forward. You don't always have to start from the beginning. You don't always have to do that same stuff. That's cool. And my favorite thing that I wish Left 4 Dead did was that you can put a pin in it at any level in your campaign and come back and start from there. But as long as you are in a safe house, as long as you don't leave it, you will start back in that safe house with your progress that you've had in that run. So whatever weapons you had that you were upgrading along the way, whatever cards you had in your deck that is applied to your character with those perks, that remains. I hope I am correct on that, because I've got to jump back into a run. But why else would that be a thing? It'd be stupid to jump back in and not have that stuff attached that far in. So that's cool. I do like that. You start off with 4 characters, but you unlock the other 4 after completing the first 4 little.
Okay, so that's new.
Maps.
Yeah, we didn't know that from the beta.
Yeah, and they have their own, abilities and team perks and whatnot. What I don't like might be a bug. Not sure. It asks you to do a tutorial. It's well, that makes sense, right? You want to learn the game, I guess, whatever. There's a card system. You don't know how any of this works, maybe. Don't do it. Do not do the tutorial, because it's not really a tutorial. They just throw you into the campaign, and you don't get any of the rewards. Usually with each level, you get rewarded supply points. So when you're outside of the campaign, you're in the hub world. That's your time to apply supply points to these supply lines, which are basically these little miniature battle passes that you do not pay for. And you unlock different cosmetics and cards that way. And each little supply line has their own things in them, so you kind of get to pick and choose what you want to invest in to get whatever cards you want first or whatever. And
is there a finite amount of this stuff, or does it seem like it goes forever?
The supply lines?
Well, collectibles and things in general.
I mean, I guess there's only so many cards that they made, and so it's
does it seem achievable?
Yeah, you get rewarded pretty good points, even for playing on like the easiest difficulty. So like if you're playing on harder difficulties, you get even more for each stage that you complete, like each map you complete, whatever. But yeah, it's like you're getting cards, you're getting emblems, you're getting stuff to like customize your profile banner, and you're getting cosmetics for your characters. Because now they added outfits and different shirts and pants and stuff. The only downfall to that is that like they are set lines. So if you're looking for a cosmetic for your favorite character, you might have to sift through a couple supply lines before you even reach pants for a character that you like or something. So there's no random like loot boxness in that, which I guess is also a bonus in a way. But yeah, so like that's cool. I like that. I do like the weapon upgrading system. I think that's really cool. It's kind of a battle royale-ish thing, you know, with color grading. You might have like a white shotgun with purple grade, which is pretty high up there, purple graded attachments. But later you might find a blue graded shotgun with worse attachments, but that gives you more time to find better attachments for that gun so you can fully utilize the potential of that weapon. That's cool. That also applies to all like your projectile and like support items, like your first aid kits and like your grenades and all that. Those abilities can be upgraded too in the safe rooms with the shops. Like you can invest money into like getting overall stats for the team if you want, instead of buying your own stuff or whatever. Which was there before, but I feel like with this they did it. It feels, something about it does feel better and different. I do like the new maps they threw in there in between the new little missions. The AI responds so much better now. They actually heal you. They're able to spot things from like a mile away. So like the pinging in this game is like second nature. You're going to be probably pinging everything. Like, oh hey, there's a flock of crows over here, or a murder of crows. Don't go over there. Oh hey, there's a weapon over there you can go pick up. Oh hey, there's money over there. They see this shit like Counter-Strike hacking. They're like looking through walls and like pinging stuff that's like a mile away, or they're pinging enemies before they spawn. That might get patched, but I appreciate it. That's a bug I like. But yeah, I'm enjoying that. I did have to cancel my pre-order through Steam, and I am playing this through Game Pass, which I think is the best way for anybody to approach this game if you have a PC and or Xbox. But I'm still playing on PC, just through Game Pass. Yeah, having fun with that. I like where it's going. I'm taking my time with it. I haven't stayed up all night to play through the other stuff, so everything I've experienced so far has only been an enhanced version of the beta. Everything else is uncharted territory, so I don't know what's going to come with that. But also boss fights are cool when they throw them in there. They're not entirely scripted. Sometimes they're just a random condition that just pops up out of nowhere. And I had one, I don't know if it's a boss, it was mini boss. Creepiest shit I ever had in this game. And like, this game isn't really creepy, you know, zombie shoot, blah, blah, action. This like Lovecraftian thing came out of nowhere in the woods. Its mouth looked like it had a bunch of arms coming out of its mouth, like a bunch of human arms coming out, or maybe it was tentacles. I don't know. It started eating me. It grabbed me head first down its throat, and it almost engulfed me. And I'm wondering if I wasn't saved, if that would have been an insta kill. But like, there was this weird like clicky noise. Some bells were ringing in the background. Then this thing emerges out of nowhere. It was like the most supernatural, weirdest shit I have experienced in this game. It never happened since. It's a one-time thing. I don't know what the fuck happened. So there might be more of that in the future.
I was going to ask if there is a witch equivalent yet, but maybe that's it.
Honestly, I don't know. Because like, you can't turn on your flashlight by manually. It's automatic. If you're just in the dark, it'll automatically come on. But I think the crows so far might be the only witch equivalent. But instead of them killing you, they just summon a horde. But yeah. But with that, it kind of ties into the other games I've been playing lately. I'm still going through Alan Wake Remastered. Little update on that. The guide I was following hasn't updated as far as I am. It stopped at like episode 2 or 3. I'm now on like episode 5, and I'm kind of going into it blindly, for lack of a better term. I've played the game before, but trying to get all the collectibles this time around. I'm like trying to make
sure are missable in this, right? Like easily,
yeah,
and like you can't really go back easily, right?
Right. I mean, I guess I could. I just don't want to. You know, I'm trying to do as much as I can in one run without having to repeat any levels or whatever. But I think I did good so far. Like episode 4, I did without a guide. I found all the manuscript pages I could get. I think I found all the thermos. That's to be determined. Yes, there are other guides that cover this, but the way they do it, because I'm just having my phone out as a guide and just kind of looking through, and those guides are like, they're all separated. They're like, all right, well, here's this page for just thermos. Here's this page for just manuscripts. But the guides I was using told you in the order that you were progressing, hey, stop here to like watch this episode of Night Springs. Here's this little history on like the statue. Read that sign, because the statistics keep track of all that.
And something like that. It can't be.
Here's the thermos here, and then here's a manuscript page right next to the thermos. Yeah, it's all. So I can just keep scrolling. All right, yeah, do that. Okay, yeah. So that's what I was preferring, and I don't want to have a bunch of tabs open and whatever or I don't want to follow a video either, because then I might as well just watch the whole damn game. So now I've just been trying to just rely on myself and trust myself a little more with my instincts and making sure I'm like combing through everything. And it's nice. It has its perks to that. You know, I do kind of appreciate that. I kind of like that my hand was being held at first, and then I decided to like go off. And since I've went off and tried to rely on my instincts, I've now applied that into Luigi's Mansion 3, aka Lugu 3.
The boy. So do you feel like you are better equipped to find secrets in both Alan Wake in the later part and in Lugu because of, like, it's going through a guide, you're kind of given the, I don't know, you get the magic glasses, right? Where you can now see where all the secrets are and you know where everything is. So then when you're playing, you know kind of what to look for when developers are hiding a secret. Like, do you feel better equipped to find things now, or?
I felt like I've always kind of had the eye for it. I just never had the patience, I think. But it's also been a while. I'm sure I was rusty on it. Each game has their own ways of having tells of where something might be, you know? So, yeah, like, to answer that, yeah, like, I do think so. I think it's helped refine how I look for things, for sure. It's helped me approach it a little differently than what I was used to doing with some other games. You know, I'm not putting myself above and thinking I'm smarter than the game. I'm just kind of going along with it. And like, while I'm finding these collectibles, now that I'm like wanting to for some reason, kind of going through a second time, I think is important when, I guess getting like a good census on the game for yourself, like getting a good pulse on it. Not that, because like the first time I usually just kind of rush through it, just kind of want to get to the beefier points. Second time around, taking my time, I'm enjoying the scenery from a different perspective. I'm enjoying it from like, oh, these are what the developers did. That's really cool. Like getting that like insight and whatever. And it's different for me. I'm not usually that patient lately with stuff like that. Just how my brain works. And that kind of leads me to like my question with like, have you ever approached a game with the intentions of like soaking it all in, you know, like, quote, taking a knee?
Soak it in how? Like,
just like yeah, like you're playing a game, you're doing the main stuff that you need to do, but at the same time along the way, you're taking like the more, I guess, scenic route, as I wrote in the damn thing, but like, you know,
just like really try and see what's in every corner and every.
Yeah, you know, just like appreciating every detail, little and big, while you're playing it. Just like not rushing through it, just taking your time with the game, just like appreciating everything about it.
I tried that with Metroid 1 the other week, and then I kind of hit a wall where I was like, I need to look this up if I'm going to finish it in time. Yeah, Matt, do you have one? Because I don't want to be boring and say Breath of the Wild again.
I was actually going to say what ends up happening. I don't think I go in with the intention of I'm going to get every collectible in this. I don't think I've ever really done that. I think what happens is, though, the world or the way they put it together is so cool, and then that's what, all right, I now want to collect everything, or that's when I decide, all right, It's time for a platinum trophy. But like in recent memory, like Horizon Zero Dawn, I just think that world was so cool that every collectible and every little audio log or whatever like expanded upon that world and explained it a little bit better. And then also both of the PS4 Spider-Man games, well, I guess PS5, PS4 for Miles Morales, but yeah, I think like the collectibles and those and how they kind of tie into like the Marvel comics, like some of them went over my head, of course, others I got, but yeah, I appreciate it every nook and cranny of those Spider-Man games too.
Yeah, the Arkham Asylum is the first one that comes to mind because I remember playing that one and the Riddler trophies, I remember just kind of like you stumble upon them or you see one and you're like, how am I supposed to get that one? Where some of the other actual like environmental puzzles where you had to like line up something and really, whatever. Those things I remember like getting excited when I spotted something, and I don't know, like I think this one was in Arkham City, but like I remember like you find the teacup set or the whole tea set and you're like, okay, there's a Mad Hatter thing here somewhere. What am I, you know what I mean? Like you're looking around for whatever, and those little moments in Asylum where you're like, ooh, there's a bunch of hash marks all over the thing. This is a Zaz thing, you know what I mean? Or whatever, like, I'm going to take a picture. Like, those things were cool and organic to stumble upon, and then made it so that when you're playing through it again or playing the later games, you kind of know, like, I'm going to go up there. There's probably something up there, I think there's... But I don't know many other games that I've wanted to do all of the collectibles. Luigi's Mansion 3 was a difficult one for me to get into the collectible side of it.
Yeah, like, I don't remember my full progress into my first playthrough, but I'm pretty sure I didn't collect every gem. Like, I don't think I care to either.
There's no way.
And, like, right, like, I don't remember if that was a very difficult thing or very tedious or, like, how annoying that was. But at least right now, I'm kind of more willing to do that than I was before, and I think it's because I'm just kind of taking my time with this stuff. Like I'm not like doing what I usually do and just kind of like binge through it or whatever. Yeah. And it's just it really got, I don't know, like Luigi's Mansion triggered something. It made me realize like how that game is set up and how like addictive cleaning is or something, right? Or it's just like I just want to vacuum everything, even things that shouldn't even be vacuumed. They're going in. Sorry, like, just anything to find money, because like the sound of using the vacuum, like the poltergust, and like taking that, and just like it's like something about it. And then like you find it gems in clever ways, or just like solving little puzzles in each room, or like thinking in unconventional ways to like for something so little of a reward. Like, oh, aim this vacuum at this ceiling light. Oh, a gold bar pops out. Like, you would have never thought that. But it got you, like, I don't know, just something about it just made me obsess over just, like, cleaning each room. Like, sealing the floor, finding every single thing, and cannot move on until I've done everything on this floor.
That was the part I found frustrating, and that one is I would think I was cleaning every single room, and then I'd miss a gem, and then like, how am I missing a gem? I thought I did everything. What else could I have done? Yeah. And I know there's some other puzzles in that game that involve like more than just cleaning to actually unlock the gem, but yeah, that was tough.
And well, what was I gonna say? It was the only downfall with that cleaning is that once you stop that session and you come back a day later or something, turn it back on, the mess is back. Yeah. All the furniture is back. It doesn't keep your progress of what you cleaned. It's like, no, so it's like, if I do that floor once, I'm not doing it again. So I'm not that crazy.
Yeah, no.
But like, that game specifically got me thinking, like the evolution of collectibles in video games. You know, like video games first, I feel like when, you know, first starting out, like Golden Age, whatever, like that was like the main plot almost. That was like the main thing of a game, was to just do that. And over time, I feel like it's kind of become like the side thing to do in games. Or in some other ways, it's kind of, I feel maybe it's encouraged some beneficial things, but also some more detrimental things. Like maybe, like, do you think with collectibles, like as it's coming, like or how it's been in games, like with, I don't know, like, I feel like there's something about it that I could see the possibility of collectibles now being a catalyst for somebody who like develops like a habit for like hoarding or something, whether in games or in real life.
Yeah, I mean, like in a game, even not even collecting collectible things, right? Like whatever you're supposed to be collecting, like just getting things like, how many times in a Pokemon game do you actually use a potion or an antidote or any of those things you acquire along the way? Like never. You let the Pokemon die and you go back to the thing. Like that's always me. And I play those games completely wrong. I get that. There's all those tools there for you that I just blatantly ignore. But part of me is also like, well, I can survive this fight even if the Pokemon faints. Mm-hmm. I should save those things for the Final Four or the Elite Four when I need it, rather than use them now. And I do a lot of that. So I do collecting in that sense incorrectly. But I think that collectibles have gone from get 100 of these things to get an extra life, or the more you collect, the higher your score goes, to...
Getting I think back to like, too.
Yeah, the achievements, but those are all built on the back of like the Banjo-Kazooie and the Donkey Kong 64 days of like, find these things, collect 5 of these, 29 of these, you know, all of that stuff, and
sweeping clean. But
like, it's fun having that thing to do, if that, you know what I mean? But like,
yeah, that was like, I was going to ask, like, do we think like this is like an outdated feature with games? Like, do we still need collectibles or like as a feature at all? Or is it like a mainstay? Like it's actually like a staple with games. Like it's something that keeps you strung along enough, whatever form it takes.
I don't know. I think it depends on the game. Like, and the flow of it, I think, is important, and pace. Like something like an RPG, it makes all the sense in the world to have collectibles and things of that nature. But like a game like Doom, I feel like the last thing I want to do is like search every nook and cranny.
Yeah.
For something.
Yeah. For like an action figure.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Like I don't mind the occasional one, but like they, especially Turtle stuffed those levels with a bunch of things, and it's like, you know, that's cool, but also at the same time, I just want to kind of keep going.
Yeah. Plus, it's good if it's beneficial.
Right.
You know? Yeah. It needs to give me something in the game. Like I think, the Arkham games, right? Like in the last Arkham game, the more whatever you got to. Right? Wasn't there something like that? Like you were upgrading your abilities because you would get Wayne points.
I think the Wayne
Tech points.
Yeah, I think you got those.
I like that.
You got those by doing certain tiers of whatever, right? Like you collected 10 trophies in this region, so that gives you 1 Wayne Tech point, and then you can apply them. Like if you're getting better because you're collecting, that's great. But there's certain games like the Banjo-Kazooie style thing, that's just a checklist, right? That's just like, I got 29 of those. I got all 5 of the jigsaw pieces in this stage or whatever.
Yeah, like with Luigi, all the money you get, is that used towards anything? I forget.
I can't remember. I feel like there's like some sort of like statue or some crap you can buy. I don't remember now.
Because, like, that part's driving me insane. Like, I want to spend that money on, like, give me, like, let me buy, like, power-ups, or, you know what I mean? Like, I know none of that's in that game. But, like, it's weird. Like, I still want all the money, even though this isn't really going towards anything.
Yeah, I think you maybe get, I don't want to tell you the wrong thing about that. I can't remember now.
Yeah. I mean, I'll find out eventually.
The Mario Odyssey one, like, you got to get different costumes, and that was cool.
Yeah.
But that was one where, like, seeing the costume was almost just as cool as using it. So once you kind of knew what was available, it didn't really mean anything to obtain it.
Yeah,
for me, I don't know.
Which is why, like, I kind of appreciate Alan Wake's a little bit, because, like, Thermos is one thing. Collecting thermoses is just like whatever. It's just like I spy and like try to find it, whatever. But the manuscript pages is cool because it does help with the lore of that world. It is interesting because like it kind of predicts. It's kind of telling you what's going to happen before it happens, just not exactly when. So it is kind of preparing you. But my favorite, I guess, are kind of collectibles in a way. But you find hidden chests. You have to use your flashlight to find this paint that's on stuff that's like, and then that leads you to the chest for extra supplies, so you're more ready for like to deal with whatever fights that come your way. And like I think that's cool stuff like that too. Just out of the way little care packages, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought collectibles in games is just a very interesting thing. I just don't think it gets questioned a lot. I think it's just I feel like it needs to be more. Like, there has to be more incentive for it now than before. Like, it's not many games involve a score, or do we really care about score? You know, like, that's not the forefront anymore for a lot of games.
The only time I've cared about score is, like, I'm playing old shooters or something, and I complete it, and I get good at it, and then it's like, okay, can I get a higher score than I did last time? Like, I still have that a little bit, but it's not certainly not with modern games at all. It's with old stuff.
But yeah, I don't know, just where it's come now, it just seems like, because I was questioning it if, you know, earlier, like if it needed to be a thing still, and I think there's still a place for it, but there has to be to be more than
there needs to be something at the end of it other than just a 5 out of 5
and just getting like cool art or something.
Yeah, honestly, dude, give me a new costume. I love that. And don't, not the Mario Odyssey way where like, hey, trade in 90 moons for this one. Like, the best thing in the world, like any of those Batman games, like you would get through a certain point and it's like, now you unlocked Sinestro Batman or whatever. Like, that stuff's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you got me kind of wanting to play a collectathon kind of game, but maybe
you can play Pac-Man
for something wrong. I mean, I just did it with Metroid Dread, right? Like, I just went through and I was playing a bunch of Metroid stuff, trying to get the 100% and everything, and like, for what? It sucked. It wasn't fun. I mean, the completion's sake, sure, but like, knowing what's at the end of it, don't care at all. I don't know. We're gonna wrap up with some quick recommendations for the week. You guys recommend anything that you think people should get into this week? I've got one for you that I think is hot. Out now on the Nintendo Switch for the low price of $6.99. Currently on sale with its debut price, Gleylancer. Gley Lancer. Gleylancer. It is a side-scrolling shooter from the mid-90s, originally released on the Mega Drive in Japan only. We got a Wii Virtual Console release at some point, but it has not been officially localized until this treatment. This treatment adds in rewind options for the emulation. It adds in a more modern difficulty setting, so it's a little bit more forgiving and not like the old style. You can switch to the old style. You can fully customize the controls. You have a lot of like... There's language options for written text, for subtitles and everything. You can leave in the original Japanese, or you can play it in English, or I think there's other languages. I didn't look too far. If for nothing else, it is worth it just to hear the song in the first stage, because that song just is a jam. So, Gleylancer, out on Switch, $5. I'm sure you've got some gold coins laying around. If you're looking for a really good side-scrolling shooter, you can't... you don't want to miss that one. It's a Mega Drive game too, so you know there were no better 16-bit games than those on the Sega Genesis. That's what I'm recommending. Do that. What do you guys got?
There's one. Okay, so I haven't played it, but I want to really bad, so I can just feel the jolliness from it. I can feel the soul in this. The Good Life.
The Good Life.
That is by Swery.
Is that out?
I think it's out. I thought it came out Friday. If not, then
wow.
I think it comes out this week.
I remember it got pushed back, but yeah, I guess it is 2021 now, isn't it? Yeah, that's...
Yeah. According to Steam, it's new and trending. So, and there's a demo.
Cool.
There's a demo. So if you don't want to invest $30 right away, which I still think is a good price as well, but just after following him on Twitter and stuff, and just knowing, just like, that's a guy I would want to hang out with for sure. He just seems like a really cool dude, and like, you know, I'm sure everyone who he's working with to make this game, it's nice seeing something new and original. I know there's some like mysteryness to it as well, so it's not usually I would recommend like something spooky, but everybody has their ways for that for this month. If you want any spooky games, I would just, you know, go for like a haunted PS1 demo disc type thing or whatever. If you want to do that, go from there. But for anyone who wants a little more cozy, a little more comfiness, definitely feeling the vibes of this from far away. So,
dude, also I saw that cover on Steam, or I'm sorry, on Switch while buying Glaylancer, and I did not think that was this game. From that, the cover makes it look like, I don't know, like a game you would find inside of a bookstore in 2003.
Yeah, but there's something about it. Like, it looks like you can turn into a dog and a cat, and I don't know, there's just weird stuff about it.
I'm very into this. But yeah, the cover looks like something that like the horse girl in your middle school class would have bought, but no one else had ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Very, what do you got?
Nothing. Like I don't know. I've been playing Metroid, playing Dark Souls. I don't know what to recommend. There's nothing new that I know is coming out.
Not even new, just like Glaylancer was a happenstance. Like I didn't even mean for that. I bought it and played it, and like it's not. I don't think it's worth like having a whole segment about the game. But I just have been playing it, and I think people should play that game. But yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know anything watching, anything you're listening to, any
Halloween. Watch Squid Game. I don't know. I don't have anything. That's a deep cut, really. Go watch some TI 10 VODs, because it's going to be over by the time it goes up.
Well, there's that, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but as we record it, it happened yesterday, day of recording. Virtus Pro has been officially knocked out, so you can retire your jerseys for a year.
Yeah, for next year.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, what are you getting into this week?
I will probably end up finishing Metroid at some point. I will get back to Dark Souls. That's probably it.
Mark?
I'm still going to be going through Alan Wake, probably first and foremost. Back 4 Blood might be sprinkled here and there. Probably not as much as Lugu. We'll see how long that goes. I hope to see it through to the end, but usually these little feelings come and go. But Alan Wake's been different, so that one for sure is definitely diving into still.
Nice. Quick Magic check. Y'all still playing Magic?
I just haven't played a video game, but when I'm home for a Monday night or Thursday night football, you know where I'm at.
I haven't booted it up since the last time we talked about it, but I still wouldn't say no to it.
Yeah, I'm like, I open it, I play a couple games here, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like nonstop like I was for like that week where like I just spent hours every evening just kind of playing that in front of the TV, but now I'm like, oh yeah, I've got 10 minutes, I'm going to play a quick round. And I jump in and do that. Or I like play until I knock out one of the challenges, get another level done in the mastery pass, and then move on. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with the week ahead. I'm all over the place now that Metroid's done. So we'll see. But we'll find out next week what happened this week. Until then, podcast@thefreecheese.com is the email address where you can write in, ask us anything, or or, whatever. Tell a friend about the show, because if you're listening to it, that means someone else also has ears and could listen too. Yeah. That's all we got. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next time. Bye.